Hello again. My name's Alan Gould, and this is the Peer Review 2014 Public Relations Edition. With me today is Chris Lobban, Chief Programmer,
Hello.
Jeremy Benedict, the Chief Ambassador,
Morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good night, evening, depending on where you are in the world.
and Jay, the Writing Team Manager, whose computer is playing How Long Will I Stay Working? So he'll be kind of popping in and out, and we'll throw questions at him as his laptop permits. So to start us off, let's go through our panel and get some quick comments. First off, let's do Chris Lobban, the Chief Programmer.
Okay, what kind of comments? I don't really have a prepared
starters-
statement.
Okay. So for starters, what exactly does a Chief Programmer do?
I do all the web development for the website. Mostly playing with databases and trying to make pages that function and things like that.
Okay. Jeremy, for Chief Ambassador, what does that job involve?
Essentially, what I'm doing the majority of the time is I'm coordinating with the rest of the ambassadors out in the communities, and also making sure that that areas have a representative with us whenever possible, or just maintaining staffing levels, passing information along from different departments in the CC to the ambassadors to give out to their players. That's the majority of what's going on, and also currently. Little peek behind what we're doing. Like, we're currently collecting feedback for the next couple of months, just to get an idea of what's going on, and see what areas we might areas that the CC can improve in, or things that we're doing well, beyond what we've already been talking about in the period of review.
All right. And we'll just, so Jay is still rebooting, so we'll start on our questions here. Nice easy one for Chris. Melways is Chief Programmer. Are there any non-chief programmers?
No, not at the moment. But I'm not that good at delegation sometimes, especially with programming. And I've tried to shop out different sectors. I've posted listings for volunteers and stuff before, and never really had that much interest. Um, but it's like mostly that was like technical writing and stuff that I know I'm not good at. The programming stuff, every time I consider trying to get somebody to help me with it, I end up thinking by the time I get somebody to help me with it and explain them how everything works and get them familiar with the back end and with all the scripts and stuff, I would probably just have it done whatever I want done. So I end up keeping more of it to myself instead.
All right. So if somebody wanted to help out with programming, what's the skill set and languages they'd need?
Well, the site uses HTML, CSS, PHP, and MySQL, and JavaScript, and Ajax, which is sort of a combination of all those things. So, any of those is good. The place I need the most help, like I said, I've posted information for a request for volunteers for like technical writers before to help document some of the stuff that I'm not good at writing documents for. I'm always interested if somebody wants to help do web design. That's definitely a weak point of mine. I'm always interested in help for that. I consider myself a web developer, not a web designer. So I really enjoy the back-end stuff, the making the website function rather than making it look pretty. So like right now, all the web design stuff is basically shared between me and Johnny, and neither of us has a lot of time to do anything major with that. Since we both obviously have other more time-consuming jobs, which is why the site doesn't really change that often. But yeah, if anybody has some good web design skills and wants to look at some of that, and they can certainly send me a resume or application, email, whatever. Let me know they're interested, and I'm always happy to look for help in those areas.
All right. So for folks, if all of those initials meant something to you and you're interested in helping, Chris is the guy to call. Next one, which actually is a website question. Questions about the NARP stuff on the website, which I believe is new and returning players. And it is a question about why are the NARP resources so badly outdated? Is it a matter of needing volunteers?
Yes, it is exactly that. That was a section that when we did the website redesign a couple of years ago, whenever it was, that was an area we decided we definitely needed help. That we needed to have exist, rather. But then, unfortunately, it never actually got developed. So we made the link, we made it exist, and then it didn't actually really point to anything. So I ended up just pointing it at the beginners section of the articles, because there is stuff there, but it's probably not the best introduction to the site. If somebody wanted to design us, like write us a good introduction page or a series of pages, send them to Jay. If he was online, I'd point at him right now, but he's not, for proofreading and stuff, and then we can certainly, I would love to get that section of the site expanded a bit more, get some real information there to make it actually more functional.
Okay. Let's see. Questions. So that would also answer the why is it just a link to the strategy articles. We'll take a moment. There's a couple shout outs to Johnny and the art team, which Johnny's not here today, but he deserves the shout out anyway.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Oh, people asking if the period reviews can be available as a podcast.
I told her to do that.
I know. I've been trying not to laugh as I'm watching the chat go by, and it's really
Yeah.
to happen. Behind every great man, there is a lady with a good right hook.
Did Alan freeze?
Appears he might have. This could be interesting. It appears we are.
Lost the moderator.
Chris, what did you do to him?
I didn't do anything. I was busy getting punched, remember?
Yes. So, well, Chris, are there any projects that you're currently working on behind the scenes that you can talk about at the present?
I don't know what can I talk about at the present. I haven't had as much time recently for programming. I did some database entry recently. Just finished loading a whole bunch of new cards into a database. Oh, and we officially dropped Ellen, so hopefully he'll rejoin now. Can't really talk about them except for the fact that I did. If the reader thinks we should spoil cards while Alan's not here to stop us, oh, too bad, Alan's back.
Darn it.
Oh, there's something to edit out and post. Weird.
I did at least ask a question. So.
Okay, so did I actually get the question out before I died, or?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so question for Jeremy on what exactly is the Ambassador program doing at this point?
Basically, the Ambassador program in general are doing the same thing we kind of always have been doing, which is trying to get feedback from the player groups and also trying to give out information as we receive it. The point of which usually, if your ambassador ever gets any information from the CC, they're directed to give it out to their players either in person at events or via local means, but not directly on the Trek CC website. So I highly encourage everybody to talk to their local ambassadors so that you can find out if there's any new information from them or if they've got anything to share with you. I know at the moment we don't, since the last set released for second edition, Balance of Terror, we haven't gotten anything new quite yet. I wouldn't be surprised now that I know development is probably closer to the next block set being done for first edition, that might be the next bit of info that we get coming soon. But nothing at the moment, just so that you know. But you can feel free to harass them all you want and let them know that I told you could do that. And if you don't know who your regional ambassador is, if you go to I believe it's the Player HQ page, and Chris can probably correct me if I'm wrong on that.
The players link at the top of every page on the site.
Yep, if you go to the players page and then go to the link for your region, right at the top of the page will show you who the ambassadors in your region are. And if you notice that there aren't any in your region and you're interested in signing up for it and volunteering, just send me a private message and we can get started and discuss it.
All right. They had two kind of related questions, so I'll throw them to you together. Basically, initiatives for retaining existing players and initiatives for bringing in new players, and they mentioned that they've heard the concerns about avoiding legal issues. But from your end, are you guys focusing more on bringing in new people or retaining the existing player base?
Really a good mix of both. I mean, if there's anything going on where there's retention issues that are specifically related to the game or to any issues in the community, we definitely want to know about it and see if they're, and pass that information along. I mean, there's always going to be some people that, for different reasons, whether it's time or changes in life or whatever, come and go at certain times, and that's going to happen. But in general, we definitely don't want to be losing people to things that we can prevent or that we can at least address somehow. So, I mean, obviously, reaching out to new people is always going to be something that we're concerned about. I know that we'll both get a lot of people in, former players that used to play and didn't know about the Trek CC or didn't know it was still being played. And then also, people that just kind of browse it and see it for the first time and go, "Oh, that's fantastic." So, well, I see Jay's on, so I think we got to switch over and talk to him.
Yes.
Quick before you go to Liv.
We have Jay, the writing team manager. Hi, Jay. Oh.
How's it going, guys?
Jay, can you hear us?
Yes.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. So we're just going to pepper you with questions until your computer crashes again. So first up
that seems
can you tell us the pitch? Yeah. So first up is, can you tell us kind of what the writing team manager job entails?
Well, I think really the writing team manager is more of a conduit for the community to publish articles to the front page. So in a lot of ways, I just act as an intermediary for anyone who wants to publish to the front page, and obviously we have a series of staff writers who do that regularly. But if anybody wants to publish something to the page, all you have to do is submit it to me or contact me and see if that's something we're interested in. But most of the things that get submitted to me do get published to the front page, so I don't think anybody should be shy about that. Obviously, during the release schedules, we do a lot of scheduling of a series of articles to celebrate the new release and to get information to people out there. But I think there's a lot of room for more information to be spread within the public, from high-level players to new players, or vice versa even. So that resource should definitely be utilized by people.
All right. Let's see. Got some questions here. Do the forums undercut the production of articles? As in, to what extent do people write stuff that could make a good article, but they just post it on the forums instead? Should anything be done about it?
Yeah, I think that is a big thing. That is a big thing, and I see that a lot of people do spend, they spend a lot of time writing a fairly detailed post or a fairly detailed blog entry, and I see it and I say, well, this could have been on the front page, and usually in that case I do send them a PM and say, hey, wouldn't you rather have this on the front page? But it does seem like people don't default to that option, and it seems like they should in a lot of ways. from my perspective, if somebody's writing something that's more than a page in Word as a post on the forums, well, then maybe you need to consider that for the front page, because obviously that's a little bit longer than just a post. Maybe this is a bigger statement than just a post on the page, and you should consider throwing some pictures in there and putting it up on the front page with a big announcement. And then it gets its own discussion thread anyway, so it works both ways.
All right. On another note, there's someone asking if there was any plans to bring back the Hindsight series of articles. They seem to died out around May, and for the person posting, they said it really helped them in getting up to speed.
Yeah, boy, I hope so. I noticed that there is a tendency for articles to appear more often during, I guess, sort of laid back times of the play season. So when you hit the high competitive area, continentals and worlds, we don't see as many articles being submitted. People are working on what they're going to be bringing to those large events. So there does tend to be a slough off. I am kind of surprised that it didn't appear afterwards, Worlds again. I thought it was a really good article series. I know that there was a couple naysayers on the boards that were saying, "Oh, this is crap," but I think most people were enjoying it and wanted to see it go through to the end, and I certainly would like to do that. But I'm not the author, so maybe I need to bug the author to get the answer to that question.
Fair enough. Related, someone asks, Jay, are you still looking for that genetically engineered deck article?
Absolutely. I'm always looking for articles, and deck articles are especially popular. I think, maybe people are shy about their articles too because they think, well, my article's not as good, or my deck isn't as good as, this guy's deck. Why would people want to read about it? But there's plenty of new players, and I think especially when I first started publishing to the front page, I thought, well, there isn't much there, so I'll just publish anyway. But you see, I get a lot of new players who come to me and say, I didn't really know how to play the game, and I tried out the deck you wrote about because it was explained there, and it worked. I was able to play. So I think that any deck articles are good articles. There's always going to be those people that say, well, this isn't Tier 1, but not everybody plays Tier 1. Some people are just looking to play. And I'd say that any deck article is going to be useful to some player. Some player is going to be looking to play that deck and has been wondering how it's done and how it works.
I think that's the end of the first ones that were pointed directly at Jay, so we'll just start throwing some other ones here. Yeah, this one's just kind of funny. Chris, we all love you, but who do you love the most? Do you treat your coworkers as well as you treat us?
Co-workers being people at the job I get paid for, you mean?
It doesn't say. Although, I think regardless, there is a definite correct answer, being that there is someone in your house that can punch you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who do I love most is an easy answer, but then they're talking about coworkers and I'm getting confused, so...
I'd say answer it however you like.
My coworkers on the continuing committee, absolutely, I love all of them. Especially the ones that are here now, because they actually showed up. Not that that's a slight to Dan for not showing up, I mean, I'm not going to name names, but... Oh, wait. Yeah, see, sorry.
Oh, no.
Alright, so we got a couple here from the chat room. What do the panelists think they can do to better relate to the community?
I think in general, I mean, first and foremost is just to continue to be part of it, and whether it's playing as much as we're allowed to, or whether it's, like I said, I mean, especially in my position and the rest of the ambassadors, I say first and foremost, listen. If somebody's got an issue or somebody wants to see something, pass that along. That's fine. It doesn't, just because something isn't necessarily done a certain way or done the way you might expect it to be done, doesn't mean that people aren't paying attention to it. I mean, and that's, I said, a lot of really good ideas have come down the pipe that a lot of people can point to and say, yeah, I had that idea a long time ago. It's like, true, and it probably might have even stemmed from that. It's just a matter of fleshing everything out.
Anybody else have a comment to throw in there? All right. Another question on the forum is, how can we best provide feedback?
Posting on the forums, DMing people, emailing people, it all works for me. I mean, I try to read pretty much everything that's posted on the forums and reply to it as best I can. There's also a bug/suggestion link at the top of the forums that you can always go and post things on there if you want. It's for more bigger issues that won't be fixed immediately. There's lots of ways of getting in touch with people, though. Hopefully they're all fairly easy to find. You go to the About Us link at the top of every page. It'll take you to the full list of continuing committee members with links to PM them or email them. You find exactly who you need to and how to contact them there.
All right. This one's kind of interesting because I actually don't know the answer, and I'm sure one of the three of you is the right answer for it. Who chooses the front page cards? By which I think they mean the card that shows up on the front page.
Combination of when there's a new set releasing, usually the brand manager for the appropriate expansion will choose, they schedule the spoiler schedule and choose the cards of the day within that spoiler schedule, so that one of the cards that is being spoiled that day, if there's multiple, will also be the card of the day. When there's not a new set dropping, like right now, a sophisticated algorithm, and by sophisticated I mean sort by random, choose one, picks a random card out of the database that has never been used as card of the day before and makes it the card of the day. And, well, that's actually not entirely true anymore, because now the second edition, we've actually used every single card in the database has been card of the day at some point. So now it's going back to the beginning, and it's actually going through them in the same order again, for the most part. So, let's see if I need to check. I've got a record here somewhere.
I think you had said that we had finally made it through all of them at least once, except for the new cards as they were coming out.
Yes, so today's card of the day is Brial Antos, I believe, and he was originally the card of the day on April 5th, 2005. And so he's back for his second visit now.
Wow. I'll do some talk in the forums because Jay's computer has abandoned me. Everybody's asking for spoilers. This is probably the wrong crew to have spoilers, unfortunately. Unless one of you is holding out on me.
Well, it's possible my name might appear on the list of designers for an upcoming expansion.
So, gonna break the secrecy, give us a spoiler, a hint. Somebody wants to know if the 20th anniversary product...
There is a 20th anniversary product coming up. There's the first teaser on the main page. I think people have seen them and chatted about them. There's a card in one of the 20th anniversary products called Split Second. It was actually one that was the how we were going to celebrate the 20th anniversary changed a few times, and this was a card that was in the initial version of the celebration, and then the theme of the set changed a few times around it, and somehow it managed to survive anyway. So, yeah, it was a sort of a fun card that actually I think Andrea and I both sort of brainstormed about together. I don't even remember which of us came up with the original idea for it, but yeah. Is that a spoiler?
Oh, it's on. Okay, let's see what else I got for questions here. Oh, Charlie talked about how there's issues with the servers and other technical stuff that is getting in the way of some progress and changes on the website. I remember that was a lot of talk around achievements, and they're wondering if
Yes.
Chris, as he who knows the computers, can expand on that.
Sure. So we had an issue months ago. I don't remember how many months ago now. Probably 6 or 8. Yeah, as the website has grown bulkier, I have a nightly job that runs at midnight every night. Reveals the new cards, posts the new articles, and what it sets the card of the day, as I was just talking about. But the list of things it had to do every night kept growing and growing and growing. And it got to the point that the job was taking too long to run and ended up crashing halfway through every night. That's the same job that also hands out achievements. So achievements were what was taking a large majority of the time for it. So at that point, we had to sort of cut back on the achievements, and I had to find other solutions. And the nightly job is now actually 3 nightly jobs. Let me look at the logs from last night. So the core job that triggers right at midnight assigns cards of the day, spoils cards as they spoil, publishes new articles, archives old articles, processes any promenade orders that are awaiting processing, gives out the extra participation prizes, the raffle tickets for tournaments for people for the tournament that was submitted a week ago, and people have submitted the decks to, and refreshes the rules tool entries in case there's any new cards that have been added. That need to now be linked to old rules tools entries. So that job last night took 5 seconds. It's actually pretty good, because that's the core one that we need to have run every night, so I keep it as slim as possible. Then the achievements job is a separate job now that runs 15 minutes later and does nothing but update new achievements, and last night it took 10 minutes to run just for the new achievements. And then there's a third job that runs every night to refresh the affiliation headquarters pages, because those got monstrous, and waiting for them to load real time was just taking too long. So that's not a nightly job that actually only refreshes, well, 5 first edition pages and 5 second edition pages. It can't even refresh all of them in one night, and that took 11 minutes last night to run that one. So it's all told 20 or 25 minutes of nightly jobs on the average night, which was way too much. The server was basically timing out and crashing halfway through when I had it all as one job. But even now, with the job, 10 minutes is about the max I can let it run before the server tries to crash it out, which is why we're still having issues with the achievements, because that takes 10 minutes right now, and the more achievements you add to that, the more checks it's got to do, the longer it's going to take. So that is one issue. Right now, Charlie and I are actually looking at new server hardware again, see if we can get an upgrade for not too bad a price. I mean, they luckily they do upgrade. You know, the same server we got a couple of years ago whenever we did the last update is now the same cost as a better server now, because the way technology works. Then the other issue with the achievement stuff is that's just the job that figures out if you've played a deck that's been flagged as a next generation player deck, whatever, at an applicable tournament, then it will give you the achievement for that. But the other half of it is flagging the decks as a next generation player deck, or whatever the achievement is that applies to the deck. Right now, those are being added every time the owner of a deck loads that deck. And that's why when you go to view one of your decks, it can often take 2 or 3 minutes to load the page before you can actually see your deck, because it's checking to see what achievements that deck deserves. Which is not a very nice way to do it, and really not the way I want to do it, but at the time I was implementing it, that was the easiest way to do it. Because we wanted to make sure that it doesn't just check when you edit the deck or when you save the deck, because sometimes the achievement can change even if you haven't changed the deck. Suddenly your deck will gain or lose an achievement if I change the achievement in the background. So we wanted to make sure it loaded more often, or it checked more often than that, and the easiest way at the time was we can't do it as a nightly job because there are tens of thousands of decks in the system, and there's no way I can check all of them every night. So we decided at the time the easiest way to do it was to have it on the deck load. And so that's the other issue we have with achievements right now is, again, the more achievements... Like at the time I added it that way, we had few enough achievements, it wasn't really that noticeable delay. But every release, we've added another 40 achievements that apply, that are deck specific, that have to be checked for, and so that incremented the amount of time it takes to the point that now I don't really want to add more, because that'll just... I feel like it's already maybe a little past the point I should have stopped. So adding more is just going to be even worse. So we're looking at new ways of doing that, and Rogan and I and Charlie have all talked about it. And that was probably 6 months ago we had that conversation, and then we all got busy doing other stuff, and nothing's happened since then. So hopefully I can get back on that. As Jay was saying when he was here, everything else sort of stops when we get into big tournament season. So hopefully now that we're through that, I'll try to give it another go and see if I can clean that up a bit.
All right.
And then we can get back to adding new achievements. And hopefully both having a new server and cleaning up that script a bit will allow us to get back to that.
Cool. Okay. Let's see. A lot of questions about any plans to create posters or banners for people to print.
I know that certainly does come up, and I know that's some things we're looking at, and that I've asked the ambassadors about too, is if there's anything else that we need to make available, and what it would be if so, because I mean a lot of it is kind of up to them to produce, other than just the CC providing art for. And I know the ambassadors do have flyers that we've had for a few years now that they can put information on and send out. And as a matter of fact, Chris even made them programmable so they can actually go into the site and type their information in and print out one with all of their stuff on it for them.
Okay. Let's see. We also have here... You guys got some really interesting questions here. People asking about, is there any plans for a Hall of Fame?
I don't know if we're the right people to ask that to. That's probably more Charlie's area, but I know it had been discussed years ago. Probably the second or third year CC was around, I'm thinking. We talked about it, and there was some posts on the forums you can probably still find if you dig deep enough, talking about what kind of criteria. And I think what was decided at the time, at least, was that it was way too subjective. No matter what criterion we use, somebody will feel left out, somebody will feel slighted, somebody will feel insulted that they weren't added and so a person was. It just was going to be too big a headache and was going to probably end up becoming too political, and it just wasn't really something we wanted to deal with at the time. I don't know if that is still the case. So that was many years ago. So I'm sure Charlie has continued thinking of it, and I think if he comes up with an idea that can do it in a fair manner, then we might yet see that. But I haven't heard anything of it, I don't believe, since the original discussions many years ago.
All right. I got a last-minute question here for Jeremy, asking about regional ambassadors, and specifically why Killer B is still permitted to be a regional ambassador.
And James and I know the poster is one of my local players too, and he and I can discuss maybe in some of the more finer details. But to be perfectly honest, I said I have removed ambassadors from the program in the past, and generally the things that they have said have actually been above and beyond some of the stuff that John mentions online, and it varies. And honestly, it's like there are people that take offense to things that several people say, and I do pay attention if anybody does send me complaints, and people have sent me complaints in the past about different people, and again, various people have been dealt with. I think a lot of it too turns into specific, what specifically is going on, and things that, if it's just a clash of personalities, or if it's actually somebody who's being openly abusive, openly disruptive, or going after specific people. I know that the people, and without naming names, are people that I've removed from the program in the past because they have publicly specifically gone after people or said drastically over the top things. I just said it's not that aren't professional. I mean, professionalism is one thing, but that just it shouldn't be said that way, especially if it's something that's personal. Take it to somebody personally. If you do something like that in public and you're somebody who I've got some sort of sway over, I'm not going to tolerate it. And again, that being said, I don't want people to think I'm blind to stuff like that, because I am following the forums and paying attention. And if something's causing you a problem, bring it up to me. And I think it's as well. It also, again, there's difference. Everybody's kind of got a difference of opinion too on what is and isn't, too much. And in general, it's been a long time since I've seen John specifically cross that line with me personally. That's not to say that it hasn't happened before and may not ever happen again, but he also honestly is somebody who is a fierce promoter of the game, and like I said, and has definitely been warned in the past, and is being, and is somebody who is being paid attention to. So I more or less just kind of want to get the point that I'm not blind to it, and I am paying attention to it, but at least since he started to now, I have not encountered a single specific situation that was not dealt with, especially like between him and I personally, that wasn't to satisfactory results. And yeah, some of the stuff that he, it's like if I see him or anybody spout off something on the boards that I think is inappropriate or needs to be addressed, I contact him about it directly and deal with it. And if it isn't resolved or if it doesn't stop, then I do something about it.
All right. I got a couple more. I think everybody likes the getting Chris on here for the technical questions. Someone's asking, actually we got a couple here all from one guy. Are there analytics being done, keeping track of how visitors find us, that sort of thing?
Yes. I have a Google Analytics account which tracks all sorts of interesting stuff about the site, and I like to go in there every once in a while and poke around and see what I can find from it. I don't dig too deep a lot of time just because I don't have that much time always to do anything about it. But a recent example, actually, I did make a change based on analytics. one of the cool tools that they have is you can actually go to any page on your website, and it will show you the percentages of the visitors that were on that page that clicked on every other button on the page. Basically, every link. How did the people from this page, where did they go from here? So on the deck builder, I went in there and I found that when you click on the deck builder page from just about anywhere, it takes you to just a landing page. It doesn't really have any information on it. It's links to different categories of decks you can look at, or across the top to look at your own decks, whatever else. And I found that most people that were landing on that page were going straight to manage my decks. So I decided, well, the landing page didn't really do anything. It was actually a remnant from a change I'd made a couple of years ago. So I figured, okay, if most people are coming here are going straight to manage my own decks, I'm going to make it so the landing page, when you click on that link, is manage my own decks. So now when you go there, it takes you straight to your own deck list as opposed to just here's some public deck lists. And if you want the public deck list, there's still a link there to them, obviously. But this way it takes out one click for most people based on what the analytics was showing me. So I go through things like that occasionally. I go visit, like I said, the deck builder was an area I hadn't really done anything to in a couple of years, so I figured I'd just go and see how people are using it. How can I, turn it to be a quick, easy way of hopefully improving it for a bunch of people, just by saving that one click. These days, web design seems to be all about saving clicks, right? So.
All right. And related to that would be, has much thought been given to search engine optimization? And I think probably the more interesting question is there a preferred term you would like people to use when linking back to the site?
No and no.
All right.
Like I said, I'm more of a web developer than a web designer, so I don't really do much. As I play around with Google Analytics or whatever. I don't really do a lot with SEO. I like to go, and again, Google will show me where, where a site ranks in certain searches and stuff, which is always fun. Yeah, I don't do too much into search engine optimization or anything like that.
All right. Jeremy, here's a question from the chat room. What can my ambassador do for me?
First and foremost, they can listen and be part of your community and feedback information to us about what's going on. Apart from that, like I said, sometimes if they have information to give out to people, then certainly I would suggest asking them if they've got any news. If they don't just openly share it with you. I generally, if there is some information that we've got to hand out to the community through the ambassadors, I usually expect that they will have that information available. I know once in a while that doesn't always work out so well, but we've been trying to hit home that the expectation is there that there at least be point of information for that. And also for new players, if you've got newer people, if you've got questions, they should be able to direct you to the correct resources or to the people or areas that can answer those questions for you if they can't do it themselves.
All right. And I just have one question for agent. Okay. So somebody in the chat room just put a question. Jay, this is you. Okay, I missed the question, so sounds like you have a question to ask.
Yeah, I'll just ask myself, I think. So Chris Mead, commented on the board, I believe it's his pronunciation. He asked me a really cutting question, which it's like it shows up at the period of review, and I wish I had known about it earlier. But he was asking about new player resources, and I didn't really understand his question, so I had him explain it to me a little bit. So usually when a new player shows up on the boards, they'll post an initial thread asking a few questions. And what I've seen is they're usually pretty confused about the game status and what's going on. Especially with 1E, we have a lot of different formats, and we have a lot of different rule sets, and it seems like new players show up and they're pretty confused about, like, they have all the rules and all the formats mixed together. So he pointed out to me why this was, and I didn't realize this, that on the front page there's a button that says, if you're new, click here. And I'd never even seen it before. I'm sure Chris knows it was there, but I didn't know it was there. And it takes you to a page that's all the articles for the beginner series. Any article that's tagged as beginner series, it just takes you there and lists them all. And the weird thing about it is it has both second edition and first edition articles, and some of the articles are from like 2008. So people are confused because they're reading these articles about revised format or standard format. And I think that he makes a good point in that we need to consider, how new players come into the game. And I think that the big thing that we need to do, and I'm going to have Chris help me out with that because I don't really know what it's like to be a new player, is to have people represent that and start to write article series that are meant to bring people into the game. But what we need from the community is some volunteers, some of those newer players, to give us input on, what resources for both second edition and first edition a new player really needs to see first, so that we can put that first when somebody comes to the boards to say, hey, read this first, and you get an idea of where to enter the game.
All right. Let's see. Another question for Jay from the forums. Happy birthday. You have a sign behind you.
Oh, that's been in my house since April. That was for my daughter's birthday. We just never took it down. And it's funny because we have tournaments at my house, and people will say, "What's that about?" And I always forget that it's there.
All right. And one last question before we close up. Favorite deck? And they didn't specify, so 1E, 2E, Tribbles, My Little Pony. I know that's a thing these days. What's your guys' favorite deck right now? I'll pick on Chris first, because he's on the left.
I don't know. I think I've played that many decks recently. I'm building one really fun one that uses a whole bunch of mission specialists to get 100 points from one mission. That's 1E, obviously. 2E, I've been playing an AU Borg deck recently, just because that was a faction that I designed, so it was a fun one. So I enjoyed that one, obviously. So I've been playing around with that one for a while.
Okay. And Jay's computer decided to commit suicide rather than answer, but in the chat he is saying his favorite deck is Bajorans, both games. Jeremy, favorite deck?
I'd say, it's kind of a toss-up only because recently, like I said, I got to play in the Gen Con 1E Cool tournament for the first time, and ended up winning for best theme with the deck that I built. It was all of the personnel in the deck, with the exception of some stand-ins for major people, were all guest stars that had appeared on Cheers, and were also in track. And I probably spent, I said, several weeks, probably almost a month, actually researching all of it. So I think it was probably the favorite deck in terms of just what I had to put into it. Aside from that, favorite deck to play, I'm always been, I said, I've got a couple of, especially like second edition Cardassian deck and Dominion deck that I've kind of always kept in the box ready to go, just because it took a long time to get them crafted to the point where they're at, but they're a lot of fun to play, and in general, just I've always just really had a good time with them. So.
All right. And that brings us to the end of the questions. Is there anything you guys wanted to talk about?
No, I don't think so.
Just kind of to reiterate what I said earlier, I'm definitely always looking for volunteers and for new ambassadors, especially if you feel like an area isn't being represented. I know we do have several regions that don't have many representatives right now, if any. I know that we went through a period earlier this year when I was trying to get rid of players that hadn't been or ambassadors that hadn't been active for a long period of time. Some people that hadn't been on the site for 6 months, and one not sure if they're ever going to come back. But so we took care of that, and now since then, I think September, October, we put 5 or 6 new ambassadors in place, and we've been just trying to make sure that everybody's well represented. So you can always send me a message if you're interested in being part of it, or at least just if you feel that your area isn't being covered. And I was just telling somebody before, I don't know that I've ever really turned anybody down. I know I'll certainly vet whoever applies and see what their interest is and what they want to do, and make sure that we're not really closely overlapping areas. But trust me, anybody that's willing, I'm certainly happy to talk with you about it.
All right. Well, that is the end of the questions I have, and it looks like Chris at least has someone looking for his attention. So we will
Always.
bring this to a close. Thank you to Chris Lobban, our chief programmer, Jeremy Benedict, chief ambassador, Jay, our writing team manager, with his guest star, The Terrible Laptop. I am Alan Gould. This is the last Period Review podcast for 2014, so we will see you again next year. Until then, hope to see you on the forums.